to the Cacophony, where we are still stuck in the past. I am your bumbling host, Jelo, and I do not have Demon Wolf with me this time to cover my sorry ass. Instead, I have these three lovely people.
Hey, it's glucose.
I am Dead or Alive too.
And this is Whiskey.
All right. And this time we're going over episode 4, volume 7. That's Pomp and Circumstance. And this is going to be tough for us because we're recording this after episode 6. So there's going to be a lot we have to try and keep a lid on. And it's just going to be tough.
Yeah, this episode sets up a lot.
Yeah, it
especially
does.
after watching 5 and 6 again. It's kind of hard to not talk about it.
Well, just do your best to keep that closed up. So let's get right into it. It starts out right away with everyone coming out of the mines, Amity flying in, and I think the most important thing right away is they kind of mill around, talk with the Aesops after everything, and something that I found interesting is the Aesops don't really see each other as friends, just coworkers.
It's pretty unrealistic, honestly.
I don't know about that. I mean, I
No,
don't.
I mean, as someone who has been, well, take I was in the military with a grain of salt because I come from a military family and I only made it through boot camp, but you don't really see a lot of not camaraderie in a military setting. It's more of a necessity thing. You don't really see people outside of your unit when you're on the job, so just it's like if you're the only kid in your neighborhood and there's one other kid, you're probably going to be friends with that kid. It just feels like weird and inauthentic.
It's
So I
funny
don't know, it
that
just rubbed me the wrong way.
It's funny that you say it like that because there clearly is a fair bit of camaraderie between them. I mean, it was a little funny to see Elm saying that they're not friends, considering the way that she jokes with Marrow and the others.
Yeah, Elm.
Yeah, they're friends, they just don't want to admit it.
That's
I
interesting.
don't know. I do have a workplace. There's a joking environment in the workplace. Sometimes you just got to do that to get through the day. But
Yeah,
especially like the Team Ruby pointed out, I believe it was Yang that said it. When you go through so much with people, you just kind of develop a bond.
right.
So
That's
I
what
think,
Glucose said.
yeah, just I feel like maybe it was just probably a weird writing that's probably not going to get mentioned again.
I
But considering,
disagree.
The
really,
way the way I see it is, remember when they finally, objected to it, when they said we're not friends, was because Ruby said, "I want to have teamwork like that with my friends." So it could have been less a matter of them saying we're not friends, and more a matter of we're teammates first, friends second. I mean, like what's important is that we are on a team together and that we get the job done together, not that we love each other.
And I think
It,
this is going to be one of their fatal flaws is that they're not. Ruby puts a large emphasis on strength and unity and strength and love, and in the end, that wins. So I think that's one of their biggest issues. And if there's ever a weak point in the Aesops, that's going to be it.
Actually sort of opinionated about this with regards to Ruby putting an enormous amount of importance on team dynamics. I mean, on a logical level, there was not really this reason that it was such a tragedy that Team Ruby was split up after the fall of Beacon. They all had places, they all went back to their families, which, like, on some level, you'd think that's where they ought to go. But the show places such an importance on team dynamics that, like, their team is more important than their family.
Well, in the way, the team is a family, which was actually mentioned in this episode.
yes. I don't really have much to say about this regarding this subject.
Yeah, I think it's a little interesting thing that I like to note. It to me, it really just screams the Aesops are going to have some big issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that one.
Okay, well, I know you guys wanted to talk a little bit about the murders in Mantle, including the guy Forrest.
Was that his name? He was named.
Yes, he
Yes,
actually
Forrest.
was.
He was the main character of the show. Come on, Whiskey.
Oh, I thought
It's
it
called
was.
it's called RWBY for a reason.
All right then. Now I want Froyo for some reason.
Huh.
It's notable that they were all pretty much immediately able to identify what's going on. These
Yeah.
people are getting killed in order to frame Ironwood as being a tyrant.
Mhm. Well,
Well,
I do like that competence instead of just I don't know, man.
Bro, I
Diane, I don't
literally
know
have
what's
no
going on.
idea.
you also remember that they did see some stuff when they first flew into Mantle. They saw White Winter and Ironwood on those big old displays,
Right.
looking all authoritarian like.
Hmm.
Especially with the soldiers walking around, or were they
Little
robots? One of the
camera
two.
robots.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
those
think
two.
this is just kind of a continuation of all that
Yeah.
stuff.
And so when you've got Tyrion running around killing dissidents,
Hmm.
it
Looks
does look
pretty
bad
bad.
on. It looks bad on Atlas.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't have much else to say if you guys don't.
We can move on to Jacques.
Yes,
This was a really great part of the episode.
I
Everybody's
agree.
favorite character.
Mhm.
He's
Well,
making
there's a
a
lot of
great.
favorite
Uh,
characters.
he made a great villain in Volume 4, and he's
Hmm.
stacking up to be one in Volume 7 as well.
Yeah, I
So
think he did a pretty good job here, especially kind of going off on Weiss and all that.
yes,
And
He honestly was the most satisfying part of the episode for me.
I can see where you're coming from on that one. Yeah,
Like, you see him in volume 4 and he's this intimidating figure, he's this insurmountable giant that's been looming over Weiss her entire life, basically. In volume 1 and 2, like, her biggest character point was that she was the heiress of the Schnee Dust Company, my father this, my father that, my family this, my family that. He was, and he looks so small in this scene compared to all the rest of them.
The
Like,
only
he
one there
comes
who
in,
can't fight.
yeah, he comes in talking all that mad shit, but you immediately realize he's outclassed by everyone in the scene.
well, I do want to say something about that. So as soon you do remember he did come in, start talking all of that shit, but as soon as
right, as
Weiss
soon
makes
as
the comment
he kind of got
about
blocked,
as
he
soon
switched
as
gears.
Weiss makes that comment about knowing what kind of father or what kind of man her father is, uh, Jock immediately starts toying with Weiss and pulls out, "Your mother was so upset." And I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but with the camera angles there,
Yes.
the camera angles there. So that's something I think this was one of the first times RWBY has done this, because they've normally had really level and static camera angles, but the downward angle on Weiss's face and kind of enlarging it, I kind of made her look really small and made Jock
Yes.
look really big. So that
Hmm.
was a really, really nice touch.
It was very basic stuff, both in terms of the camera work and in terms of Jacques, manipulating her by bringing up her mother. But even though it's basic, that doesn't mean it isn't extremely effective.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
very powerful.
it worked very well. He knew exactly when this doesn't work, he swapped to this.
I mean, and you got to remember that he took the SDC to new levels, so he's the very competent businessman. So
Mhm.
naturally, that comes around with toying with people.
Yeah,
Funny thing was that
he's a manipulator.
All of his yelling at Ironwood, though, about like taking this mine, and he was like, "Oh, you've given me the noose to hang you." Honestly, that sounded like a lot of bluster. I think he's overestimating how much power he has over Ironwood.
Yeah, even with
well,
It felt more reflexive than anything because Ironwood is like Ironwood just okay. I love Ironwood. He just this entire scene, especially towards the end, was just basically him flexing on Jacques because the
Mhm.
moment he goes in on Weiss, he's about to get physical again because that's the only thing he knows that works.
yeah.
He says, "I have half a mind to," and Ironwood immediately, like snap of the fingers, half a mind to what? Because what is Jacques gonna do to Ironwood? He can slap his daughter. He's done it before. Sure,
Yeah, he's done it behind closed doors, though.
Yeah,
Right.
but
There's a difference.
Ironwood has defied him openly before, and he's in Ironwood's wheelhouse now. So of course he's got to try and, even when no one's looking, it's reflexive to him. He has to try and protect
Mhm.
his image.
They could have pointed out more the fact that Weiss is at this point a legal adult. If he, slapped her, even if, that kind of disciplinary action is legal against a child in Atlas, you can't do that to another adult. That's illegal.
And besides, our team would be on him like a swarm of
Well,
bees, most likely.
Bees, that's so funny.
That was not a
Oh, I get it.
that wasn't intentional. Stop it.
You're so punny.
Whiskey,
That's
I will find you and I will beat you to death.
that's a real knee slapper right there. Okay, anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, my point is that he can't just assault another adult, and everybody treated it as like Ironwood's protecting her because he's big and intimidating, but she's 19 at this point. She can do what she wants.
I mean, yeah, but
Well-
still, it shows a lot of Ironwood's character. I think this is coming back to people are way too hard on him this volume for some
You're right.
reason.
Yeah, no, there's a timeless quote by what's his name? Oh yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn. There's always a bigger fish.
No,
So I think that's very applicable here.
I do gotta say one thing. The slaps, those aren't really a physical thing. It's more emotional and mental.
To a large
Because
extent. She takes worse than that, every time she trains, probably.
Exactly. So it's
I mean,
You
it's
gotta
still
take that
physical abuse, but it's more the. That's
right.
the thing about it. It's less that, ow, my dad hit me. It's my dad hit me. This is my
Yeah.
dad.
Right.
Yeah. Well, also I gotta say it was really kind of cute how Jacques showed, or he flew off, and Winter was like, "Is he gone?
All right.
Is it safe?"
I feel like
Winter's
she
just-
intentionally missed him. I want to imagine that she saw his ship flying in and she just pulled off to the side of the road and she's like, I'm going to wait here for a moment.
Hey, driver, could you circle a couple of times just until that ship goes away?
hmm And I think that'll lead us pretty good into the whole big ceremony with the huntsman licenses.
I honestly forgot this was a thing.
The
Well,
licenses?
Yeah.
Well, like Yang said, after everything,
I
they
mean-
seem kind of trivial.
Like, that was their original goal at the start of the series, and now at this point, it's kind of nothing.
hmm
Yeah, it's been
It
6
really is.
volumes.
It would be like if
Just
Harry
lets
Potter
them-
graduated from Hogwarts and Voldemort's still out there to deal with.
Yeah, so
It just lets them kind of work with more freedom.
Yeah. And they're they kind of, have a job now legally.
They can get money anytime that they need to by doing huntsman work.
Oh yeah,
I'd say it's.
did
I'd
they
say
earn
it's-
money?
Oh, sorry.
No, never mind. I wasn't. My
Have
thing was
done that
thinking of
before.
the
Like
future.
they have been paid for huntsman work before, but in volume 4. But
Yeah,
I think technically that wasn't legal because they
I
didn't
think
have
that
license.
was more a exchange of goods and services type thing.
Yeah, it's probably below the board, but honestly, who's going to blink an eye at that?
When you're that far out
What-
in the wilderness, I don't think anyone cares.
Especially
what if-
how Mistral's dealing right then.
Did you pay your taxes on that armor, sir? 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 No, I think
Great,
it's
that's another illegal thing that Jean's done. This
Didn't
guy's the
report
real
your
criminal.
taxes.
Forget Torchwick.
Yeah. No, I think for the purposes of the show at least, like in universe, it seems like more of a rite of passage than anything else.
else. It's kind of a you've been
Right.
through this much, and you've Ironwood even said, deities here, no, you deserve it.
Mhm.
Like
Okay,
Compared
so
It gave us a lot of cute scenes with Pain with congratulations, bouncing up and down, awkward
to some of the-
Ironwood.
Compared to some of the professional huntsmen that we've seen, Cough Cough D and Dudley, they absolutely deserve those licenses.
Yeah. To be fair,
Well-
Dean Dudley, I've always thought of them as bomb of the barrel, barely passing grades.
I mean, Crow even said
Tyrion
as
passed
much.
them over.
let's see, Yang and Blake took down an international terrorist.
Hmm.
Adam was a big cut above. I think
Yeah.
most professional huntsmen would probably lose to Adam. That's what it seems like.
It seems like he's
Crow
on the
fought-
level of a professional huntsman.
Yeah, Crow
I'm
fought
sure-
Tyrion
I'm-
to a standstill, didn't he? In
Yeah.
Volume 4?
Yeah.
Right.
And so
The only
Team
reason he
Ranger
lost was
kind
he
of
got
held him
distracted.
off.
Ranger was clearly
So-
losing to Tyrion, but he wasn't just going through them like a knife through butter.
Yeah,
Right.
so... And there was still, what? Maybe couple months, 3 months in between the Ranger
Right.
fight with Tyrion and
Yeah.
end of Volume 6. So, they've gone through a lot between the fall of Beacon and
And
these
now.
huntsman licenses into I was going to say this when we got to a different point, but you guys remember in Volume 3, Crow said, every day out
Yes.
there is worth a week in this place, and he's referring to Beacon. So I think that really rings true here.
Yeah.
Well, when you're fighting Salem's agents, it's definitely true.
Probably worth 2 weeks at least.
Sorry, my mic cut out.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Well,
Okay, what I was gonna
I just
say,
wanna-
because my mic keeps cutting out, is like just the fall of Beacon alone is more than we've ever seen any individual huntsman go through in the series. So on top of all the other stuff, yeah, they kind of earned this.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's in doubt. Or at least if it is, you're not really thinking it through.
I do want to say, I do have a couple more points. Well, Nora's still being used comic relief.
Yeah.
Twice in this episode now.
Yeah.
With the
I mean,
Thunder
that's not
Thighs
all
moment.
she is.
Yeah,
She
that she's kind of
hasn't
leaning. They're
up
leaning
to
too much
this-
into it.
As of right now, in Volume 4 or Episodes 4, that's all she's been.
Okay, but spoiler alert for the next two, that's not all she is.
Shh. 5 and 6 haven't aired yet.
Ted.
Ed, this is the past.
I'm getting the water bottle, Ted. It did give
Yeah.
us the best meme in the volume thus far.
The selfie meme. That's why it's in all caps
Yes.
in my notes.
It's been hilarious. Even Miles said he fucking loves it.
Yes.
To anyone that hasn't seen it, the best one out there is Yang and Blake on either side of Weiss as she is impaled
Getting
by
impaled.
Cinder's spear.
There's
That
also.
is- The best.
Oh no, I can't comment on that one.
Oh,
Oh no, I can. The Yang and Blake with the selfie meme with Pyrrha getting impaled as well.
That's good
Mhm.
too. I think it's those two and the one where
they're on both sides
After-
of Adam.
Stop
Okay, that
too.
No, I was thinking about the one where Yang and Blake are lying on the ground right after Yang's arm was cut off.
Okay.
And it just replaces their faces with the ones from the Zoe.
Well, it does.
And-
It also has the Yang's
cake.
arm just. No, Yang's arm is just on the ground somewhere else, holding the camera.
I did make a couple more points, but
Mm.
they're not really relevant. I'll
Yeah,
just copy
let's
and paste
move
them in the
into,
Cacawphony chat later.
Let's move into summer.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. There was one more
Or-
thing I wanted to say about the licenses.
All right, go ahead.
Some people have said that this was a bribe. What do you guys
Oh.
think about that?
I don't agree.
Absolutely not. Do not
I
get me
mean-
started.
I feel like this is again the Ironwood is totally a bad guy, even though we don't have any evidence that he's a bad guy.
I think
Yeah.
Ironwood has learned his lesson from volumes 2 and 3.
I think Yumi's on the up and up.
Yeah, clearly he's using a more gentle touch, which was his issue in volume 2 and 3, was that he refused to, be subtle.
Like
Mhm.
instead of in volume 2 and 3, his whole thing was he's flexing the military, he's forcing things, he's trust me. And in this volume, he's more, please, I need you to trust me. Here, I'm working with you. Please work with me.
He's
I
also,
don't see this as a bribe.
No, he's also, taking those steps forward too, as opposed to just okay, so he's thrown everything out on the table. He kind of did that in volume 2 and 3, but he's
Mhm.
also not being he's being open to suggestions.
Yeah, he's very reflective and
He's being
understands.
very flexible. He's not being extremely flexible, but he's understanding and he's learned his lesson and he knows what did he say in volume or episode 2? Like
Oh, that's.
he said it was something like Oz wouldn't like this, or Oz isn't here right now, so I'm doing the best I can.
Something
And I
like
think
that.
And I think that's becoming a theme of the volume, is that I'm trying to do the best that I can, but I don't know if that's right.
And I know not many people listen to our podcast, and this is a thing with the fandom at large, but I feel it needs to be said to anyone who's listening to this. Ironwood, for all that he's doing wrong, you cannot say he is lying to them, at least about any of his plans, and you cannot say that he isn't trying with good intentions.
Yeah, that's what I was
But-
trying to say. Jesus,
And
let's
it-
put
it-
everything on the table. Holy
It
cow.
annoys me that he is continually put on this villain pedestal as, oh, he's so evil because he's paranoid. A natural feeling in this situation. Leo was paranoid too, and he did a lot worse.
Mhm.
So
But
Ironwood,
glucose, there might be something he's hiding. I don't
I don't
actually
think-
believe
I don't
that.
think there is. I don't
He's
think there
admitted
is.
that they have the Winter Maiden. He's admitted that the embargo and the closed borders are part of his plan to protect Atlas from the aftermath of his plan. He's admitted every part of his plan, including the revealing to the world that Salem is a thing. Really, the only thing that he might not be telling them the truth about is exactly how he plans to protect Atlas. And even then, I don't think he's just going to abandon Mantle. I feel like, from my understanding, he's just going to try and protect Mantle and Atlas and, let the rest come as it may. Which, after the fall of Beacon, like you saw how many robots got turned on him and how many got destroyed, it's likely that they're having a little bit of a manpower crisis right now.
Mhm.
Speaking
will
of
s-
robots,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've seen any of the Elysian robots with
Yeah, we
have.
weapons.
yeah, right in chapter 1, we saw like 4 of them walking
Yeah.
around in a squad in
No,
Mantle.
we did? Okay.
Yeah, and they were fighting
Okay,
against
never
the
mind.
Sabers.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
They
they were
got
I
getting,
was
wrecked
wrong.
by them.
yeah, they were getting their shit rocked, but they were there.
Yeah, well, that's the goal
Ye-
with robots.
But why do
Yeah.
these things even exist? They haven't
I
done
don't know.
anything valuable.
That's true. In Volume 2, we saw that if they have the numbers, they really can be effective
Yeah.
against Grim. If they have the numbers and the position.
Hmm. All right.
I mean,
All
like
right.
they can't even beat a couple of terrorists running through an empty hallway. So you know.
All
All right.
right.
Let's get this thing back on track and actually talk about Summer. Perhaps the most
Yeah.
developed part of this episode.
Crow is Whoopi's dad confirmed?
Shut up.
This scene, I did love it, but I knew that was gonna happen the moment that the scene showed up because
Uh,
just the way it was framed. But I
It
do
is
love it.
interesting to learn that it wasn't an Ozpin thing that,
this
you know,
is very
It's a-
interesting.
It's a very
Mhm.
important revelation. It gives us one more piece of the puzzle because up until
think-
now we've had almost no. We didn't even know what Summer looked like except for the photo.
Yeah,
And
we
then-
learned about that in episode 13 last volume.
Yeah, we saw her face in volume 6, and now we know that whatever happened to her, whatever it wasn't an Ozpin thing. Unless there is a way it could have been an Ozpin thing, and that's if he was lying to Crow and it was just a Summer Ozpin arrangement. And even then,
It's
I don't think
possible.
I don't think they're gonna go that deep. They might.
Crow didn't say Ozpin told me it was just a summer thing. He said Ozpin seemed like he was just as
In the
surprised
dark
as
well,
anyone.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So maybe it was a Silver Eyes thing too.
My first thought was that it was something related to her family.
That Silver Eyes, because maybe Summer, was looking into those. Maybe her family has, she comes from Silver Eyed Warriors, family clan. I don't know.
I think one of the most likely things is she's very supposedly Ruby like, or Ruby is like her. So
Yeah.
it could be a lot of attempting to be selfless, go off, fight the fight. Maybe she even tried to storm Salem's castle. I don't know, thinking that she was some kind of big hero and could, save people doing that.
Yeah, no. Sailor, or what's her face? Summer shows up as a, resurrected villain towards the end. I'm a.
I don't like
There's-
that.
Like that. 'cause
There's going to be feelings about that I don't want to express in public.
I think we get the idea, though.
Yeah. They're all 4-letter words, aren't they, Whiskey?
Some of them are 3-letter words.
Alright, fair.
But there's also the Ruby's kind of taken over as the group leader here in
Right.
place of Ozpin.
That
And
is her kind of point, and I'm glad that's happening.
she's trying to lead everyone, and she says we get that line from the trailer of
Right.
I'm trying to do what I think is right, but I don't know, and I've already botched the line, but you know what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to do what's best, but I don't know what's right anymore.
There you go. But then Crow says Oz only trusted himself with the whole truth. You're trusting others, but you're making them prove themselves first.
Mm.
So, in that way, Ruby and Ozpin are pretty similar, I think. But I really go on.
I was going to say, I think it's a good thing that Ruby is questioning this decision to keep things from Ironwood. I think it's good that she is asking herself, am I being just like Ozpin? I think it is maybe justified to not tell him everything, even though, the specific things she kept from him might have some pretty dire consequences.
Oh, it's
You
absolutely
mean Will?
understandable because look at the last person in Ozpin's circle they trusted. Look at what Leo did.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah, the only person that hasn't burned them is Crow.
The fact is, they don't know how he would react to finding out.
Oh, we got some echo
Out
going
that
on.
Salem is immortal. It looks like it's gone now.
Okay.
Well, they saw how Crow reacted, and I think I said this back on episode 2. You saw how Jimmy lit up when the idea of Ozpin was there came
Mm.
up.
Right.
So he also has a lot of trust and all that within him.
Really, he wants guidance from Ozpin.
It's not like Leo, where the revelation that Ozpin is still around is, uh-oh. No, for Jimmy, it's like, oh my god, yes, please, Daddy Ozpin, help me. Dad, come pick me up, I'm scared. But no, I do think that it is going to backfire, but this volume thus far has done a really good job of explaining that Ruby has reasons to be acting the way she is, and in a sense, it is sort of the right decision. It's not necessarily the best decision, or who knows, it might be. Maybe Jimmy's plan doesn't backfire. Who knows?
I think
We'll
it's
have to see.
morally justified, but I think the specific things she chose to keep from him were stupid.
Yeah.
I think they're following the hoping for the best, prepare for the worst philosophy here.
Yeah.
But, and I think you could call this character development for Ruby with this whole. It's a stretch, but because her character development has just been spaced out over 7 volumes, and even then, that's a stretch.
I will
But-
say, like, at the beginning of the series, she is a firm idealist.
Yeah.
That
Right.
much is made clear. And in this volume, she's done something that, an idealistic person normally wouldn't do.
There you go.
It's like, if this were volume 1 Ruby in this situation, she'd probably tell Ironwood everything. And honestly, that's not for the
Yeah.
best. Just to go back to that point for a second. Her lying about Salem being immortal, like not telling him that's a bad thing. I unequivocally think that Ironwood needs to know that for his plan. But the thing about the genie lamp, I don't really think that's bad that she lied to him about it. That has use for her. That could come in handy later. That might be important that they have one more question.
If you were gonna hide one, you almost need to hide the other.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that at all. You could say that we used the last question and found out that Salem was immortal.
Okay, yeah, sure, I
That's-
suppose.
But you can't at the same time say we asked a question and there's one more and not.
Well, you could just say, I don't know. You could say that Ozpin told us that there was one question left, but that would get into all kinds of weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she did what she could there.
The question is, at what would it take for her to decide, all right, I should tell him now?
If the plan is
That's-
going completely to shit.
I'm sure that'll come up later.
There's just a lot of internal character
Yeah.
struggle, and that's something Ruby hasn't come across, I think.
Well, that's what I'm liking this one.
Funny thing is that from
but-
what we've seen of Ironwood, I honestly think that if she tells him at a time that isn't like way too late, like if she did just approach him one day and said, hey, look, I lied to you. There is a question left, and we already used one and learned all this shit about Salem and Ozma, I think he would forgive her. I think he would understand why she initially kept that from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he would too.
Yeah, probably. But let's talk about the wrench that's going to be thrown into things.
Oh, I loved this scene.
It's
The
my
mustachioed
boy!
wrench.
Okay. Who's kicking this off?
I'll go ahead since this is
Alright.
my father we're speaking of. My God, Watts. I wasn't expecting him to show up exactly how he did. We've seen him earlier in the volume. We've seen him doing his Watts doggery. But the Ubisoft award-winning game Watts Dogs, pretty great. Y'all should play it. But he just rolls up into Jacques' crib completely uninvited. Just
pushes the Son out of the way.
Yeah,
We're through him.
he's like, move, bitch. I have business.
Mhm.
And we do get a little bit the tiniest mite of backstory on Watts, like the
We're
Yeah.
supposed to
slightest
be
bit.
dead. Yes,
You're
that is
supposed
what
to
I
be
wanted
dead.
people to think. I
He's well enough known that Jacques recognizes him.
think they've
They
met
had some
before.
sort of history together.
They were in a
Yeah.
mustache club.
They were in the Dollar
Well-
Shave Club for men.
Now, hang on. Didn't Raven say in Volume 5 he was a disgraced Elysian
Yes.
scientist and doctor? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
he said, "Oh yeah, that's right," but I don't know if that means like exactly. Well, I don't think you can read into that too much.
Yeah. So
we'll
maybe
have to see.
it's he's got a face that can be recognized, but
Mhm.
we'll see.
And then, Jacques, he bitches about how horrible his life is, literally shaking and crying right now. And Watts, our gracious father who gives us so much. He says,
Mhm.
yo, Jock, my homie, my man.
If you
I
could
got
have your
this.
cake and eat it too, and somebody edits Nora's giant stack of cake into his hand.
Yeah, he's just, homie, chill. I got this.
But
Right,
this
and
60-second scene sets up so much.
What do
Right.
you
This
think?
is where it's gonna be hard
so
for
good.
spoilers.
Oh
What do
my
you think he
gosh.
told Jacques? Do you think he just said, "Hey, I'm gonna hack the election and give you all the votes," or did he say like, "Oh,
I'll
I don't
handle
know. I
it.
don't even know."
It's
We shall see. I have a feeling that
Yeah.
the full extent of their deal is going to come up later.
yeah.
Because I am of firm belief that Watts, this is not a partnership. This is a one-sided deal.
Most
Watts
likely.
using Jacques as like a springboard for whatever plan he has in Atlas. And as
And
soon as
it's a
Watts
matter
stops
of
being useful,
I think
as soon as Jacques stops being useful, then
yeah, I think he's just like a part of his plan, and then as soon as he's not needed anymore, he'll just be tossed off or killed or something. I do want to say something about Whitley though, because a lot of people don't like
Yes.
him.
I gotta say
Whitley-
it's important
go
to
on.
see that it was Whitley introducing him and not Klein.
we don't know
Yeah.
what happened to Klein. He was probably fired at the very least.
There
Yeah.
could have been a lot of things that happened. He could have gotten off scot-free or whatever. I think this is because they specifically wanted to use Whitley.
So I want to say a lot of people absolutely hate Whitley, but I want to say this: Whitley is a kid in a shitty situation. He's got a alcoholic mother and an alcoholic absentee mother and a father who is looking out for himself, and what we have seen, he is physically aggressive and verbally aggressive. So
yeah, he's
he's
physically and emotionally abused at least one of his children right in front of Whitley and has likely given him the same treatment.
Mm-hmm.
and we know
And-
so and we also know that Weiss had Winter as a pillar of support.
Yes.
It sounds
But
like
we
Whitley
know-
didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we know just Winter just fucked off as soon as she could.
And this is another
so-
point. Another
Yeah,
point
go
about
on.
that. In an abusive situation, people are saying, "Oh, well, he's the kid that obviously gets along with Jacques, so he couldn't have been abused." That's not how it works. I've
Right.
seen this
Yeah.
point made a lot. In an abusive family, no matter what you do, it's not going to be good enough for the abuser. That dynamic of continuing to please your abuser to make sure that they don't hurt you doesn't work if the threat isn't still there. So I don't
Like, you
doubt
could-
that Whitley's gotten some of the same treatment that his sisters have, if not worse, because he's trying so hard to please Jacques.
because he's the heir, he has higher standards to live up to, and you could hear the hesitation and him just trying to not step on any toes as he opened that door. And
Mhm.
just even as just Jock snapped, without even getting any more information, as Whitley informed him that Arthur had arrived. So Whitney's in a Whitney. How Whitley's he's trapped and he can't really go
Yeah,
anywhere. So
I've always considered Whitley as a quote unquote failed Weiss, a Weiss without a support system.
Right.
yeah.
He's
So
a defenseless victim. He can't fight. Well, at least as far as we know, he can't fight.
Weiss even said, like, "Are you jealous you don't have powers like me in Winter?"
He said, "Nah, I don't like that kind of shit."
Yeah. He said
Yeah.
it was barbaric, I believe. So
So he quite literally cannot defend himself from a bigger, more manipulative man. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where we'll go with him.
I feel like he saw more than the scene lets on, and I feel like that's gonna be important.
He just looked through the keyhole.
It could very well be that he's going to be the one who tells Team
Yeah.
RWBY or somebody, yeah, there's shit going on with some mustache guy.
Some other mustache guy, not Dad.
Added
A
another
guy with a
mustache.
cooler mustache than Dad.
You know how
The-
dangerous that is.
the
Mustaches are the
Virgin
ultimate
Schnee
weapon.
mustache and the Chad Watts
Okay.
mustache.
Okay, Hazel has a mustache, or like the beginning of one. He's evil. Leo had a mustache. He's evil. Port had a mustache. He's not evil, so he's the exception.
I was about to say, you better not talk shit about it.
Jacques has a mustache. Watts has a mustache. Crow doesn't have a mustache, and he's not evil. Mustaches are evil confirmed, except for Port. We stand.
Well, he
I
was
don't
an
know,
evil
it could-
teacher. So
At any moment, it could be revealed that Port was actually the mastermind the whole time.
Oh no, mustaches are the mark of the beast. Salem just shows up and she has a mustache.
This isn't even my final form.
good grief.
Okay, do we have anything more on this episode? I think we
I
covered
don't.
everything.
That's pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was overall a slow down episode.
It
Yeah.
kind of fit the pattern we've been seeing thus far of action-y episode with exposition and talking, action-y episode with exposition and talking.
Right.
I think that's
But
true.
it's a pattern that's worked pretty well. So
Yeah.
I'm engaged. And all
Definitely.
excited every time. All right then. Well, if that is it, we have been the Cacophony. You can check us out at the Crow's Nest Discord. We'll
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've muted them all. I have a goof for you. These fools have not even remotely talked about the one thing that mattered most about this episode. Checkmate, Bumblebeists. Checkmate. That is right. Bumblebee is now dead. Weiss and Blake have held hands, so checkmate for the future. That is your editor and recorder, Wolf, signing off. Back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
I love how I'm the only one who's unmuted.
Oh.
I'm crying.
Literally shaking and crying right now.
I'm going to skin him after this.
Oh no.
Now that the podcast has been hijacked. Wait, was that Watts? Did Watts hack our podcast?
No, that was Demon Wolf does not have Daddy's mustache, ergo he is like 9 times the worst hacker.
Well, it's the winter season, so a nice wolf skin rug or something would be pretty nice.
Sounds good, fam. We don't need a recorder, let the motherfucker burn.
I'm pretty competent in OBS and Sony Vegas.
Yeah, you've been replaced, Demon. We're outsourcing your work to the Tennesseans.
All right, let's
All right.
sign off.
Let's get out of here. We've been the Cacophony from the Crow's Nest Discord server. You'll have a link down the bottom. If you want to give Wolf shit for the stunt he pulled, join in, just ping him, give him crap. I'd love all that. Alright then. I've been Jelo, and with me I was joined by Demon Wolf unexpectedly, and
Glucose.
You're alive too.
And this is whiskey.
all right, good night.
Well,